So we will, thank you, Betty. We will share those recordings after the event. Okay, so welcome. Today we're going to be talking about including people living with dementia. And this is hosted by the Intergenerational Linkages Community of Practice group, which is a national CORE group hosted on the CORE Alberta Platform, but it's a national focused group here that has monthly meetings and sessions. I'm going to start off with a land acknowledgement here. So in the spirit of our journey to promote reconciliation, we'd like to honor the truth of the shared history and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and for those who have gone before us. And myself and Betty are tuning in from Treaty 7 territory. So I'd like to recognize that I'm tuning in from the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika nations, the Yahe Nakota Nation, which includes the Goodstoney, Chiniki, and Bearspaw nations, and the Tsuut'ina. I am also tuning in from Métis Regions 5 and 6, and our colleagues that are in the group here with us are tuning in from all places, all different places across Turtle Island. So I'd like to also acknowledge those places. Just some housekeeping. Keep yourself muted while we're presenting. We'll have times to chat that you can take yourself off mute. Like I said, we'll record it. We'll put it up on both the group platform and in YouTube after the event. So usually it takes me a few days to get up. A little bit information about CORE. So we have 3 CORE platforms. This group is hosted on the CORE Alberta platform, but we also have CORE BC and CORE National. And all 3 sites are either provincially or nationally coordinated learning platforms that are there to increase the organizational sector capacity through information sharing, training, mentoring, communities of practice, policy development, resource development, and collaboration. So all 3 sites have wonderful resources for you to help complete your work, like events like this, reports, toolkits, other resources that folks have shared. And I am representing Healthy Aging Alberta, which is powered by United Way of Calgary and area, and I coordinate the CORE Alberta platform. And just a little information about Healthy Aging Alberta. We are a network of community-based senior serving organizations across Alberta that are united by a shared vision, which is to make Alberta one of the best places to grow older. And we are building this infrastructure that connects us so that we can increase our collective impact in the sector. And I'll introduce the rest of the team here. So we have Betty Good, who is a trainer consultant with Good Links Intergenerational Practice out of Mohkinstsis here, aka Calgary. Jane Atkins, who is out of Sundre Senior Spruce Society, who's the co-chair. We have Anita, who's not here with us today. She's feeling a little unwell, but she's representing from Volunteer Canada and Fredericton. Myself, I'm based out of Calgary, Mohkinstsis, and I am with Healthy Aging Alberta. And then we have our newest member who just joined us, Rochelle Patil, who is based out of Toronto. And I'm going to pass over to my colleagues here who are going to introduce some of our speakers.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I have the pleasure today to introduce Dana. Dana Zumak is the manager of programs at the Schlegel U of W for Aging and has led the Supporting Inclusion through Intergenerational Partnerships, also known as SIP project, since 2019. The SIP project focuses on reducing social isolation and building meaningful relationships across generations. SIP works with organizations across Waterloo region to provide opportunities for older adults living with dementia, their care partners, and youth to connect and interact in purposeful ways. Let's welcome Dana.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. I'm just going to take a second here to share my screen. Sorry, I'll try that one more time. I'm not sure why it didn't work, but.
It's Murphy's Law, right? It worked fine.
I know, it said there
In
was an
our
error.
practice time.
It said there was an error in the Google slide, so let me just try that again. There we go. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so as Rochelle mentioned, I'm going to share some of our lessons learned from the Supporting Inclusion through Intergenerational Partnership project. I will say that this project has wrapped up now, so it was a 5-year project that ended at the end of October, but still lots of relevant information. So just before I begin, I'd like to share land acknowledgement for the Schlegel UW Research Institute for Aging. So I'm located in Waterloo, Ontario, which is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people. And the RIA is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. And just a very quick little introduction about the RIA. So we are a charitable nonprofit foundation, and our mission is to enhance the care and quality of life of older adults through partnerships in research, education, and practice. The RIA supports research and explores aging across various topics, including dementia. And we engage stakeholders throughout the research process using research findings to co-design resources, programs, education, and training. Ultimately, we inform practice and policy change to enhance the quality of life for older adults everywhere. So I'll just describe the Supporting Inclusion through Intergenerational Partnership a little bit to set some of the context for the lessons learned that I'll share in a minute. So this was a 5-year collective impact project focused on reducing the social isolation of older adults living with dementia and their care partners. And we did this through intergenerational programming with secondary and post-secondary aged youth here in Waterloo Region. And there were several different components to the project. We funded community organizations to provide opportunities for older adults living with dementia and youth to connect and interact in purposeful ways. We developed an online dementia education course to help prepare youth to participate in intergenerational programs. We worked to build awareness of the impact of social isolation for people living with dementia. And then we also conducted evaluation activities to assess the impact of the project. So I thought I'd just share a couple of points about why we felt there was a need to address social isolation among people living with dementia. So as many of you probably realize, there is a reciprocal relationship between dementia and social isolation. So social isolation can be a risk factor for dementia, but dementia can also change the way that a person connects with others and their community. So feelings of embarrassment, shame, or fear can cause a person living with dementia to isolate themselves. And while there are many factors that can put older adults at risk of becoming socially isolated, there are also lots of things that can be done to help ensure that older adults living with dementia remain socially engaged. So it's really important to find ways to stay connected, whether that's through personal connections, participating in community programs, or accessing social services. But really, overcoming social isolation is crucial to maintaining a healthy and fulfilling life. And there are lots of benefits to intergenerational programs for both older adults and youth. Specifically, intergenerational programs can foster relationships and really genuine friendships. They can reduce feelings of loneliness and isolation by breaking down actual and perceived barriers to social participation. They can help youth gain a more positive perspective on both dementia and aging. They can help support the development of various skills such as social skills, mentorship, and technology, and they can really help people feel important and valued. And I really like the quote that's up on the screen here. It says, "It's helped me to realize that it's not super difficult to connect with people with dementia. It's not necessarily a barrier to create connections with them. Maybe it means you have to go about something in a different way, like how you might talk to them, but it doesn't mean that you can't create strong connections with people living with dementia. And I really think this sums up the experience of many of the youth who participated in our programming, where they may have felt a little bit hesitant at first, but had a wonderful experience once they were willing to give it a try. So the first lesson that I'd like to share with you today is really the importance of co-design. So co-design involves the meaningful engagement of partners, including individuals with lived experience, in the development of programs to improve their quality and their impact. Co-designing the SIP programs with youth and people living with dementia allowed those with lived experience to directly influence the program. So as an example, one of the SIP projects used the co-design process to develop their intergenerational art program. So I should have mentioned each of the programs had a different focus, but one in particular focused on an art program. And a co-design team with youth, people living with dementia, and the project staff team, they met weekly for 6 weeks to discuss things like the program logistics, the content, such as the mediums of art or the types of projects they would work on, as well as learning outcomes for the program and community celebrations. And after these 6 sessions, 2 4-week pilot programs were completed to test out this co-design informed program. And at the end of each pilot, feedback was captured and then used to design and launch the first full-scale offering of the 12-week program. And this process was really a critical step to ensure the program was successful and resulted in improved well-being. So all people living with dementia reported increased in social connection, quality of life, and found the program to be a meaningful experience to them. It improved connections and confidence with older adults. All youth reported feeling more confident about engaging with people living with dementia and really enjoyed their contact with older adults. And youth youth felt that they had a more positive and accepting attitude toward older adults. And then finally, there were stronger intergenerational connections. So people living with dementia and youth both indicated that the program was a positive experience and that they enjoyed the intergenerational aspect of the program itself. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we had developed a dementia education program for youth. So many of the youth had never engaged with people living with dementia and really didn't know what to expect. So they definitely learn quickly, but giving them some strategies can really help set them up for success. We did work with the local Alzheimer's Society, and they can be a really helpful resource, but we also felt that it would be valuable to share some online learning opportunities. So we developed the Living the Dementia Journey for Young Adults course, which aims to build understanding and communication between young adults and people living with dementia and really help them feel prepared to engage in intergenerational programming. The course includes information about dementia, the importance of reducing stigma associated with aging and dementia, enhancing well-being and improving communication, exploring how and why people living with dementia may express themselves in different ways. And then the final module shared opportunities, volunteer positions, and career paths that the youth may wish to explore. Another lesson that we learned was that when it comes to implementing intergenerational programs, there's different strategies needed to recruit both older adults and youth. So for older adults, using physical recruitment materials like postcards and flyers is often more successful than digital materials. Word of mouth promotion was also a really successful strategy. So having those former or current participants really be your biggest champions for the project. And it was important to make sure that participants shared their experience and we used these on the recruitment materials as well. Another strategy that some of the projects found helpful was having sort of a trial event, which allowed potential participants to experience the program, but without having to commit to the full cycle of a program. For youth, on the other hand, digital platforms like social media were often successful, but we did turn to testimonials from past or current participants as well. For programs that were connected with some of our local schools and school boards, promoting and recruiting through co-op coordinators or faculty members was also a really good strategy. And many of the SIP projects had a bit of difficulty getting youth to commit to the program if it was pitched purely as a recreational experience, but most programs offered some sort of incentive or academic credit, such as volunteer experience.
I thought about inviting that fella back down, but I think that we understand.
Yeah, so offering sort of a volunteer experience, co-op or practicum places. And I do want to mention that although recruitment was a little bit challenging at first, the huge majority of the youth really enjoyed their involvement and often returned for subsequent rounds of the programming. And in fact, for one of our local high schools, the SIP program became one of the most popular co-op program offerings. Another lesson that I wanted to share is to prioritize in-person programming wherever possible, but consider using virtual programming to meet specific needs. So older adults often prefer being in person because they enjoy the level of connection and energy that being in person provides. They may have limited comfort or access to technology to connect virtually, and sometimes just want the opportunity to get out of the house. However, being in person doesn't always work for everyone, and virtual can be valuable for older adults that might not be comfortable with technology or who have difficulty getting to an in-person program because of the complexities related to dementia, transportation challenges, or also for temporary situations such as inclement weather or infectious disease outbreaks. But our recommendation is really to keep virtual and in-person offerings separate, as it was really difficult to run a session where you're meaningfully engaging people both online and in person at the same time. And then the last lesson that I'd like to share with you today is a bit of a sad one, but no less important to consider. As I mentioned earlier, these intergenerational programs create really strong bonds between the youth and older adult participants. And some of our participants were describing the relationships as like a grandparent-grandchild relationship. And this is really what draws them to the programming. They often the youth didn't have grandparents nearby, so this was an opportunity for them to connect in that way. However, unfortunately, intergenerational programming also means that there is an increased risk that an older adult participant may pass away or experience another change that means that they can't continue to participate in the program. And a loss of this relationship can lead to grief, and this can be really traumatic for youth, particularly if they haven't experienced this before. If this loss and grief is left unsupported, it may deter the youth from continuing or joining similar programming in the future. So intergenerational programs should really have strategies in place for addressing loss and grief, including identifying a local counseling service that can support the group through the grieving process. It's also important to make youth aware about the potential for loss early on in the program, and then taking time to debrief the loss if it does occur. And just before I wrap up, I wanted to share a resource that may be of interest to you. So we've developed a resource called Creating Intergenerational Dementia Programs Guide. This guide is designed to help community program developers by offering a high-level overview of the evidence on the topic. And the information in this guide can be used in a number of ways, including recruitment strategies, preparing for possible barriers to participation, and incorporating best practices in programming that others have found successful. So this guide is available on the RA's website, and I can share that with the team to share the link in the future, or you can scan the QR code there. If that works through the screen, I think it should. But thank you so much for the opportunity to share about the SIP project today. If you are interested in learning more about our work, you can either visit our website or sign up for our newsletter or follow us on social media.
Thank you so much, Dana. That was awesome. Great coverage of all the different programming and experiences, especially from both sides of the generations, which is really great. I would just like to take a little bit here to open it up. If anyone has any questions or thoughts they'd like to share with Dana, feel free to raise the hand in the function that Stephanie showed us before, or mention your question in the chat box there.
There was one question that came in through the chat there, Dana, and they're wondering if you could share the link to the guide just in the chat there for folks.
And
I can do that.
And Dana, if you emailed me the link, we always do a follow-up email after this event. I'll include it in the follow-up as well, so everybody will get it. Thanks.
Sure, I will add it while there's another speaker taking place.
Awesome. I think Rebecca had her hand up first.
Hi, thank you. What a great program. I work for the Alzheimer's Society in Manitoba, and I'm curious if that youth video, the training one, is available for use elsewhere.
Yeah, so it's actually a course. It has 6 different modules, but it is available on the RIA's website. It's free. The youth can complete it as they have time, so you don't have to do it in one sitting or one session. But I can also put the link to that in the chat.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for making that available.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. And Patty also has a question here. She's wondering where the programming is. Maybe you can reiterate that, and wondering if there's anything set up like that in the Calgary area and anything for caregivers as part of this equation.
So this programming took place in Waterloo region. It was a grant local to our area. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this project did wrap up at the end of October. So most of the programs are continuing to offer intergenerational programming in some capacity, but what that looks like has changed depending on what they were able to continue with without the funding from this grant. I'm not sure if there's anything available in Calgary that is similar to this. And I think the third part was about care partners. So depending on the different project, they had different activities for care partners. Sometimes they were participating along with the person living with dementia, and in other programs they had alternative programming. So for the art program that I mentioned, that was a partnership between the local Alzheimer's Society, the YMCA of Three Rivers, and the Waterloo Public Library. So while the people living with dementia and youth were developing their art projects, the care partners had the opportunity to take advantage of the facilities at the YMCA. So they had some time on their own to do whatever activity they wanted to enjoy at the YMCA.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. It looks like we have another question here from the Renate Dementia Care Society.
Hi, yes. Actually, yeah, I've been doing some research into introducing an intergenerational programming, and actually did submit a grant with, and so we're in Victoria, and submitted a grant with the University of Victoria Institute of Aging and Lifelong Health. Not sure how it's coming along there, waiting for word on that. But I had looked at the UK Alzheimer's in United Kingdom, and they have also an extensive curriculum established. So I was just wondering if you had integrated that, because I called up actually the Brenda Stafford Foundation in Calgary, and they had done a program a few years ago, and they adjusted the curriculum to suit the needs of the Alberta curriculum. The thing that I'm noticing though with your program and Brenda Stafford is, again, it's a sunset program. It, gets all hyped up and going, and with the hope that it does carry on through, I guess, whoever the champion may be in the schools, but certainly the Brenda Stafford Foundation at that time, like yourselves, I'm sure, had a coordinator going, and that of course is the key to maintain these relationships and the interest. And so it's kind of you know, like any of these programs, you want them to be sustainable, but A, without funding, and B, without, you know, some champion, it's very difficult. So, and then one thing I also found, like when we were doing the proposal, I was trying to contact certain districts, and one didn't even really get back to us, and then the other one did show an interest. And I did notice that the Brenda Stafford Foundation worked with private schools, and so I am noticing there is, yeah, you know, schools are very busy, or they've got, you know, other things going on. So sometimes approaching private schools might be easier to get a response and more of a uptake. So those are just some things that I've been noticing, trying to also launch a similar program here.
Yeah, for sure. So the Living the Dementia Journey for Young Adults course that we developed, it was based off of another course that we offer here at the RIA, which is primarily targeted to team members working in retirement and long-term care. So we took sort of the essence of that course and then adapted it with youth, or for a youth audience. And we did work through that co-design process, or we involved youth in the development of the course. And our original thought was sort of what you're talking about, working with the school boards and making sure that it's available on some of their learning platforms. The timing of this was absolutely terrible for us because it was right in the midst of COVID. So we were really not able to make a lot of those connections with the school board. It just wasn't the top priority at the moment, if you can believe that or not. So we did work through some private schools as well to help with pilot testing. The schools are definitely a challenge to work with. There's so many different steps involved in making those connections. But like you mentioned, sometimes it is just finding the champion, somebody that has a natural connection to this work, and they can really help to move it along sort of through the process, when taking a more direct route doesn't always make it the easiest route. I think that maybe not that you had a direct question, but just to provide a little more insight on that. And I felt like you had another one that probably will come back to me. Oh,
Yeah,
you're talking
no, it
about
was just
sustainability.
Sustainability, I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, so that was something that we wanted to keep sort of top of mind for our projects from the very beginning, knowing that this was a limited time amount of funding that we had for them. So we worked really closely with them on developing sustainability sort of action plans throughout the course of the project, and then had sort of a phase at the end of our project where they transition to those sustainability plans. So along the way, we had them, we offered a workshop for them with a sort of expert in sustainability, and worked through that action plan and really focused on not just funding as one aspect of sustainability, but we looked at partnerships and the essential elements of the program that they would need to sustain in order to keep it as the same type of program, and what may be able to be dropped or adapted in different ways depending on the staffing that they had and the funding. We also talked about the importance of evaluation and how that can really, the results from an evaluation can be used to help secure additional funding in the future. So we did work really hard, and like I mentioned,
we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico.
Oops, someone's got the radio on.
Like I mentioned, they are sustaining the programs in some capacity, but it does look different from what their original program was.
Right, yeah. I just thought of something too. Now I lost it. As we're all talking about dementia. All right, yeah, thanks.
So I have a question. What kind of training do you do with the youth before they meet the older adults that they are partnered with?
So it was sort of up to each of the community organizations and what that looked like for them. So we encouraged them to take the Living the Dementia Journey for Young Adults course. And then some of the programs also had the local Alzheimer's Society come in and provide some training, just sort of an overview of what dementia is, some help set some of the expectations of what they could potentially encounter in their programming. But yeah, I think that was pretty much it. For the most part, the people living with dementia that engaged in these programs were relatively early on in their journey, and so didn't always require the same level of support that others may need, depending on if they're further along in their journey.
Thank you so much. And then the question that was forgotten but now came back, it was about a certificate offering that. Is that something that you've considered? Is that part of the program?
Yeah, so at the end of the course, they do receive a certificate of completion, which is just like an automated process if they complete all 6 modules.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And then there was another one here from Patty saying that since the program has ended, I believe they're asking, is the guide still available? And I think the answer is yes to that.
Yes, the course is still available on the RA's website, and I will put the link in momentarily. Yeah, and then I don't know if it talked about a guide. I don't know if that was the resource that I shared, but I will also put the link to that one in the chat.
Awesome. And then I think there's one last question here about what was the time of the program? Was it after school? What time of day? What kind of did you find worked best?
Yeah, again, that was really up to the individual programs when they decided to offer it. So the intergenerational art program that I mentioned in the co-design process, they actually offered the program on Saturday mornings. So it was always tricky to find a time that worked well for people living with dementia, knowing that later in the day isn't always the best time, but then balancing that with school timing. So they found that Saturday mornings did work actually really well, and they had lots of youth that were willing to give up their Saturdays and attend the programming for that. Others did offer it after school, but sort of immediately after school, so around the like 3 o'clock, 3:30 timing for a couple of hours. And then some of them, they would start the program a little bit earlier, where the older adults would come and connect to begin with, and then the youth would join as they were able to after school.
I have a question. How many weeks was the program?
They varied. So some of them were as short as 6 weeks. So it was sort of 6, 8, or 12 weeks. The programs did find that 12 was probably a little bit too long in terms of a commitment, that people were a little bit hesitant to register for that long, just not knowing if they would be able to attend each of the sessions for that long. So sort of that 6 to 8 week mark sort of seemed to fit well. In some cases, if they were working with schools or school boards, they may have some requirements in terms of the number of hours for a co-op placement that would, or a volunteer position. So it really varied.
I have a quick question. I'm curious to find out if the length of the program, like let's say it was a 6, 8, or 12 weeks, if that initiated any sort of like long-term relation. Sometimes we find in these programs, people like to keep that relationship and kind of continue it on their own, but they'll still let the program coordinator kind of know that. So I'm wondering if you found any of that in this case.
Yeah, we definitely did hear that. And sometimes both the youth and the older adults would be, loving the program so much that they would come back for sort of another cycle of the program. But we did hear lots of stories where they were connecting outside of the program. I know in one case, the youth was graduating from high school and invited the older adult to attend their graduation. So lots of wonderful stories like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing on that. It looks like Rebecca has her hand up.
Thank you. Maybe I missed, like, how did the community partnerships form? Did you recruit partners, and how long did that take, and what methods did you use for that? And did they need training before they committed?
We at the RIA were the sort of backbone organization, and we put out a call for proposals. And as part of that call for proposals, they had to already have identified a partner that they were going to work with for this, at least one partnership. Some of them had 2 partners as well. So that was sort of part of the application process. And then we had a committee that reviewed the applications and then recommended certain ones for funding. I can't remember the second part of your question. If they had any training. So because this was a collective impact project, we had monthly meetings where a program lead from each of the funded projects, we would meet together for about an hour and talk about any challenges that we were encountering. And one of the partners on this project was the Alzheimer's Society. So they were like a wonderful resource for any of the organizations that didn't necessarily have a lot of experience leading programs with people living with dementia. They provided lots of resources, or we brought in some sort of as little workshops. We would have staff from the Alzheimer's Society present on a particular topic. So there wasn't necessarily like a formal training program that we had the organizations go through, but they always had that sort of peer input process that we could work through any challenges.
Thank you.
Oh, did you see the question in the chat?
Yeah, but you can go for it, Betty.
No, you go. I was
Okay.
wondering if you missed it.
Okay, if you could just elaborate on, Christina's wondering, do the caregivers participate in the session or wait elsewhere? I know you touched on this a bit, but if you could just kind of re-clarify, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Sure. So again, it varied depending on the program. They were each set up a little bit differently. In some cases, the caregivers were participating along with the person living with dementia and youth. And in other cases, they had an opportunity to do a different type of programming that they were maybe interested in. So for example, with the YMCA, they were able to do some different recreational activities of their choice.
Thanks so much. I think that's all the questions. I think we might pivot and I'm going to pass it on to Betty Good. Thank you so much, Dana. That was fabulous.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity.
Yes, thanks, Dana. That was, you can tell there's a lot of interest. So any of the information, the links, anything, if you want to send them to me by email, I'll make sure that, sorry, I have a chronic sinus problem. I'll make sure that I include those in the follow-up email.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
so Stephanie, if we can have the PowerPoint back, then I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and that's Donna Making. And she is a recreational therapist here in Alberta for Mountain View Seniors Housing in Sundre, which is, I don't know, is it an hour north of Calgary? Something like that. And I think recently I had a chat with her, and recently she has become a certified facilitator for OMA. OMA is, I know it's across North America. I don't know if it's all around the world. Maybe you can tell us, Donna. And OMA stands for Opening Minds Through Art. And it, I think, always has an intergenerational component. So I'm not going to tell you any more about Donna. Donna, if there's anything you want them to know about you, you can do that through a little introduction when you start. But before we start, we've got a 59-second video about OMA that will kind of set the stage for Donna. And then Donna, it's all yours.
Please let me know if the sound doesn't come through.
But you didn't like art before?
No.
What is different about this program?
You can do what you want and how you want to do it.
Okay.
You're just free, free, free.
So these are the pieces that you made.
Oh my goodness.
It would always start off as kind of that like, oh, I'm not gonna make great artwork, but when we did have really good pieces at the end, she'd kind of spark up like, yeah, I just made that and I actually like it.
The moment that you have the reveal of what the printed paper actually looks like was just a really, really neat moment.
Being able to still have choice and autonomy and agency in what they do.
I feel like it's important for them to be able to have something joyful to do.
Good morning, everyone.
It's all yours, Donna.
All right. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Donna Making. I'm a recreation therapist in the town of Sundre and Didsbury, Alberta. My passion, I've been a rec therapist for about 20 years right now, and the bulk of my experience comes from long-term care. So dementia and mental health has always been my passion in life, and I try to further my education. The more I learn, the more engaged residents I can have and the better quality of life I can provide to our residents. So just in this last September, I completed the OMA facilitator certificate, which is based out of Miami University at Scripps Gerontology Center in Oxford, Ohio. The program started in 2007, and I work for Mountain View Seniors Housing, but the company that I actually work for is Bethany Care. So Bethany, straight across in Calgary, all of their facilities, all the rec therapists now are becoming educated in OMA because we see the great benefit that it has on our residents and the impact that it can bring. So what OMA is OMA is an award-winning, evidence-based intergenerational art making program for people living with dementia. It is a failure-free program designed to provide opportunity for creative self-expression and social engagement for people with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. OMA sessions are led by trained facilitators. Each older adult is paired with a trained volunteer who provides guidance during the art making process, but makes no aesthetics decisions for the resident, for the artist. It's completely their decision, their choices, whatever they want to do, and we're just there to help guide them. The art making sessions accumulate in a gallery, celebrating the artist's accomplishments while educating the public about the creative capabilities of people living with dementia. So the goal behind OMA is to promote social engagement, autonomy, and dignity for people living with dementia by creating creative self-expression and opportunities. Sorry, I don't know why I'm so nervous. I got to get it out of me. To provide staff and volunteers the opportunity to build close relationships with people with dementia. And to show the public the creative self-expression capabilities of people with dementia through their artwork. So the whole goal is that we create these sessions for OMA. We bring in volunteers. We aim to bring in like the high school population, or even young adults that are just going to university or college to come, because they seem to have more flexible time to be able to provide this. We train the volunteer so that they can provide the utmost experience to the resident while they're there. The mission behind OMA is to dedicate to, we are dedicated to improving the quality of life for older adults by developing evidence-informed, high-impact caregiving education, delivering engaging and meaningful life enrichment programs, and inspiring change in organizations that serve older adults. When we create art, we're creating something new and that is of value. And that in return gives us a sense of accomplishment and a connection. That helps improve our brain health, our physical health. By creating expression, it helps actually boost our immune systems. There's studies that have shown that. And it gives us a new social role. With OMA art is complex, but it's easy to do. And with OMA, there's a process. So we follow the OMA process, repetition with people with dementia is important. The more we do it, the more they seem to know and understand and be able to express themselves more. I finished the certificate in September, and I'm currently recruiting volunteers right now to do my first official OMA session, where we do it for about 4 weeks. We do 4 sessions, so we'll do it for 4 weeks with the volunteers, with the resident as a one-to-one. And at the end of that 4 weeks, we create an art exhibition, like an art gallery, and we invite residents, families, the public in, and they display it, and then they can show their work of art and their sense of accomplishment or whatever. So I have 2 pictures here, and so I haven't done an official OMA session yet, but I've done mini sessions to help build myself, get my courage and my creative expression out. That takes time. So this was a session that we've done just with tape and bubble wrap and different paint things. So if you can see that each picture will come beautifully and differently, but the same instructions are given. So whatever way the resident wants to create themselves. And what we like to do at the end of every session is we put a mat around it so they can see it framed, and when we hang it on the wall, that their pictures are beautiful. And it's, even though they'll tell us in the beginning that that's something they cannot do, right? That, no, I can't do that. I don't know how to paint. I don't know how to do art. But that's where trained volunteers come in to help cue the resident to be successful. And that's why OMA is a failure-free program. With our population aging, an increasing majority of healthcare clients are older adults. OMA participation provides future healthcare professionals with the opportunity to value the importance of maintaining the dignity and integrity of all of our residents, develop interpersonal communication skills to effectively engage our residents, build a level of comfort and interaction with clients who live with dementia, and engage in reflective practice and connect this experience to their personal field of study. With me, with OMA, it's heartwarming. It's actually incredible to see somebody that can hardly have a conversation with you sit there, express themselves, come out with a full, beautiful picture at the end, and feel that sense of accomplishment. Because as a rec therapist, my goal is to enhance the quality of lives of our residents. Person-centered care is always at the top of my list, and this gives residents the choice. And sometimes that, you know, you might do an OMA session and residents are just not going to do it that day, but that means that that volunteer that's paired with that resident gets that one-to-one for that hour. So whether it's going to the room, looking at pictures, it doesn't necessarily have to be that OMA picture that day, or giving them the opportunity to sit and watch, and then that might help build the courage that they need to be able to participate and be successful in the program. That's what I have for you today. Do I have any questions? Sorry, I didn't have a visual like that you guys could look at.
You know, Donna, once you've done your first program, you're going to have lots of visuals. How long is a program?
So it varies. So we want to, like, for our first session, so how long is the program to do for me to become educated? Is that what you mean?
No, like once you start the program with the residents and the volunteers, how long would that be?
So our first OMA session will be 4 weeks. So we'll have 4 different classes, so 4 hours, basically with the resident. Then they'll create 4 beautiful pictures, and we're aiming to have 8 residents participate. So then 8 volunteers, with me and being the facilitator, and then my assistant being the person that hands out the paints and the helper and stuff like that. So yeah, so 4 weeks, it can vary. I mean, it depends on the residents and their tolerance. So that's why it's important to know who your resident is, their capabilities, and challenge yourself, because if a resident that absolutely doesn't participate in anything, they're the residents that you want to participate, because you want to create, you don't want any resident at risk of isolation. That's always our goal, and our main focus is to trigger the people. We always have residents that will participate in every day-to-day program, but those that don't, they're the ones that we should trigger, because they're the ones that probably have the most expression to be able to express themselves.
Okay, let's open it up for questions. Who has questions for Donna? Oh, somebody in the chat said, does OMA have a website?
Yeah, OMA does have a website. It is scripts, so scripsoma.org.
Say that again.
I linked it to that comment in the chat as well, if folks are looking for it.
Oh, okay.
And Kathleen Bergen just tossed it in there as well.
And if anybody is interested in doing OMA, to become an OMA facilitator, it's $1,000 to get that course. And also they also have education for OMA volunteers, which is only $25. That gives you the basic knowledge. But as a facilitator, we're provided with all that information to be able to train our volunteers to be successful.
Okay, Rebecca, you had a question.
You just answered it there, Dawn. I was curious about the training for the volunteers. And so as if there is a facilitator, that skill set's there, and you work with your volunteers and go through there. And then because you're in a facility, you have access to funding for your supplies, I guess, or do you have to work outside grants to get that?
Grants. So yeah, we had grants provided to us actually from the town of Didsbury. Gave us the grant for OMA. So and in return, I'm able to offer that here in Didsbury, but also in Sundre.
Any other questions? So I'm curious, when you take this course, do they provide you with lots and lots of art ideas and activities, or do you have to come up with those yourself?
So program plans are provided. So OMA is based out of the United States, but they work closely with Club 36 with the Alzheimer's Society in Calgary. So like that's where I had to go to do my final piece of my OMA. So like to facilitate a program and have somebody oversee that I'm doing it efficiently. So yeah.
Good. There's a question. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name.
Oh, probably me, Renate. Hi.
Renate. Okay, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, yeah. No, I like the idea that you said the town of Didsbury supported you on doing the course, because I just looked it up and I was like, ah, crap, another $1,000. So, you know, how many more education training programs do I have to do? So yeah, that might be an option. But my question was, also, yeah, doing the programming. So currently we're offering programs based on you know, grants and things. And so it would be nice to offer always these free programs, but paying for a site and paying for potential facilitators. So are you mostly offering them, or does the town of Didsbury also pitch in, or grants, or are you offering these for free, or a combination of free or paid?
Well, Bethany supports us, right? So
oh, okay. So it's,
yeah, everything is kind of done in-house.
Oh, it's done through
the community involved with having the volunteers come in.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything is done in-house.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's.
And I get a budget as a rec therapist too, right? So that we can.
Oh, okay. So is it only Bethany participants? Because we're looking to run some programs through the yeah, care homes, but they're like independent living. And then mostly our clients are those living in the community. So we're wanting to bring them into the facility for the, you know, the couple hours. So your programming, is it done, yeah, with facility members or also external community members?
Currently just facility members.
Okay, so they're in a later stage of dementia?
So I'm in supportive living, so I work at SL4 and SL4D. So the dementia piece, and SL4, a lot of them have early onsets of dementia also. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. And then we were also looking at doing a yeah, one piece is with the caregiver, like together as an activity they do together in the memory cafe, and then the other is potentially having those living with dementia do their own programming while at the same time caregiver does their thing, like you'd said at the Y, or somebody said, yeah. So yours is primarily with persons living with dementia and not the caregivers?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
But that's an interesting idea. If you approached a long-term care facility or supported living,
yes,
to see if you could bring in some from the community to join.
Yeah, that's definitely what I just made a connection with a local one here, and the guy was super excited. I was like, wow, okay, great. I mean, we would also include the persons living at the facility, but you know, most people living with dementia live in the community, either alone or with their care partners, and we're trying to keep people living in the community. But yeah, I think like actually, you know, I mentioned the Brenda Stafford Foundation in Calgary, and they said that they at the time had been looking at opportunities to engage in the community and also even, you know, open up their gym or things for people to come into the facility. So it is more of a community-based.
Oh, come in.
Yeah.
Okay,
most definitely come in. Let me get out of this thing. Hold on just a second.
Stephanie,
if you look like in our facility in Sundre, we have a day program. So where we invite the community to come in, and they host special events, and there's a coordinator that oversees that. So some facilities might have day programs and stuff that are already offering this kind of thing.
Yeah, like a day, like a respite day program, you mean?
Yeah, so like it's just a drop-in center in Sundre. So it's attached to the supportive living, where it's a day program. So anybody that's in the town of Sundre, surrounding areas, if they just want to drop in for a cup of coffee, they're always welcome just to come and chat. And they offer different, like yesterday they had coffee with the mayor. So and they do special things, and they keep the community updated. So I feel in Sundre it's a really cool, and we got a really cool establishment going there, and having the community involvement is so important, and bringing the community into our facilities is so important, because we want to maintain that most normalcy as we can in their lives, right? So, and having people like the mayor coming in and showing their support, and it just makes everyone's day, and it changes, it makes them really happy.
Yeah, well, and we were talking about primarily intergenerational, and I guess that's why I was interested in the timing of the programs, because certainly many of these programs are running midday, midweek. And it's interesting that, they mentioned Saturdays, but you know, unless you're like, and one of our programs does operate right next, or a couple of them actually, right next to high schools, and also to close to universities. So we have established and are establishing more intergenerational connections just purely by physical location, which does make sense, because getting volunteers is extremely difficult and maintaining, and so trying to sort of get on like the RIA guys did, getting a good incentive and trying to ensure that they participate as well in the programming.
Okay, here's a question in the chat. Do you have to work in the health industry to become OMA certified? or can anybody get certified?
Anybody can be certified. Yep.
Okay, and you know what, if you don't have your chat box open, Stephanie's putting in a lot of good links there. Here's another, oh, Stephanie, you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
No, I was just flagging that we had a whole bunch of questions coming in the chat. But I will mention, if you don't have your chat box open, I did, and this is specifically for Alberta and Saskatchewan folks, but the Mutart Foundation does have a bursary funding program for longer types of trainings like this, for $1,500, and then their leadership bursary as well. I don't know if the leadership bursary will fit for 25, but I think the 1,500 one works. But that's Alberta and Saskatchewan folks. The rest of you, I'm not sure.
Okay, here's another question. Patty, you have good questions. Do you have to do a practicum in order to finish your certification? You had mentioned that you worked
did
with...
the practicum at Club 36 with the Alzheimer's Society in Calgary. So I just went there for one day. That was the kind of the end piece. You had to go online to do your class piece for a few hours once a week. And I think the course took six weeks, I think, to complete. And then you had to spend a day at the Club 36 to show your skills and what you can do and get proper guidance as a face-to-face.
Okay. I'm just sorry, I'm not very, I can't really multitask. So yes, there will be a recording available. Any more questions for Donna? Okay, so now we're going to pivot and we're just going, already, hang on, one more question and then we're going to pivot. Does OMA support you after you get certified? Is there a continuous professional development?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, there is. For the facilitators, we have an outlet. So if we want to reach out to the facilitators in Ohio, we have that resource there. And anything new, so if they develop any new program plans with the different kinds of arts and stuff that they can do, they provide us with that. So it's ongoing.
Okay, thank you, Donna. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
And interesting. So we're going to pivot and we're just going to open it up for about 10 minutes for discussion, because this event today is including people with dementia in our intergenerational programs. It's not just about OMA. It's not just about what Dana was talking about. I'm sure some of you already have programs where you are including people with dementia, or you have stories, or you have questions about this in general. So let's open it up. If you have a question, anybody here with experience or ideas can answer that. And this will just be a discussion time to learn more about how we can do intergenerational programming, including people with dementia. Jane.
Yeah, one of the things that I brought into the drop-in center in Sundre was a drum circle. And it was amazing. We had about 7 of the dementia people in there with the drum circle, and they came in very kind of confused, like, what am I going to do? I've never drummed in my life. And at the end of it, we asked them, they go, I can drum. And they were just so thrilled. They didn't want to stop after an hour. They wanted to keep going. It was just really heartwarming.
Sometimes it's hard to get them in and not necessarily motivated, but participating, right?
Yep.
We'll do it again, Jane.
Rebecca.
I find that there's how has people been successful negotiating the benefits of the program for the person with dementia through the gatekeeper of the care partner? I find there's care partners working with people in the community have their preconceived notions of what the person with dementia is capable of or not capable of, and they make that decision. No, no art for us. No minds in motion for us. That person with dementia would never do that. So like I get so many no's to our minds in motion programs, just said just like that. And I just need some help. Like, how do I work with those care partners to try? And I love the other presenter in Waterloo there about giving trials. Like, I think that is one tactic of just free trials, but anything else would be appreciated. Thank you.
That is an excellent question, because I've run into that with somebody in my life. And to be honest, I have given up on this person, but I'm sure that some of them can be convinced. Any experience, any ideas from anybody?
The problem with our caregivers today is that they're so task focused, right? So they got lists that they got to complete, and breaking them out of that tasks. There is training that you can do. A lot of our staff have in the long-term care prior to being in Sundre and Didsbury, were trained on Montessori. So Montessori was developed for, as it's a children's based program, but it was developed for people with dementia also. So there is a training piece that you can get your staff involved. Supportive pathways is awesome, just to change their my God, I can't talk today. To change their mind to frame and to let them out, So there are education that you can give, but changing their task focused minds is very difficult.
Yeah, agenda directive. And there is somebody in the chat, Patty, asking me to elaborate on minds in motion. And so the Alzheimer's across the board in Canada run this program called Minds in Motion, and it's meant for mild to moderate signs and symptoms of dementia, people living with that, and a friend / care partner, whoever that is. And it's an 8-week program, once a week for 2 hours. That includes exercise, coffee time, and then cognitive stimulation. And that cognitive stimulation piece is diverse and varied. Mostly it's games, but that's based on kind of access to a drumming leader or a music therapist or other creative things that you can partner with the community on.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm wondering the challenge with caregivers who think they don't have time or think the people that they are caring for won't be interested or aren't capable. I'm wondering if, and you may have tried this, if you could say, can we just try it once? I don't know. I don't have an answer, but there's a suggestion. Okay. Anybody else have any experience with intergenerational programs with people with dementia? Hey, well, let me tell you about mine. I'm in Calgary, and most of you, a lot of you know, I used to work for Linkages Society here in Alberta, and we ran intergenerational clubs with junior high and high school. I worked there for 8 years, I think. And then a year ago, they had to close. Now I've started my own social enterprise, and I still have some of those clubs going. But one of the programs that we had, we went to, so Donna, we went to Bethany, Harvest Hills. You're probably familiar with that. There's a care center, long-term care in Calgary. They only have 60 residents, but they all have to have mid to late dementia. And there was a junior high school that was within walking distance. So every Monday from the end of October until the end of May, every single Monday, unless there's a holiday, we had, I think, about 14, 15 students walk over to this care center. And then we worked with the recreational therapist, and she brought 7 or 8 people, residents, and remember, they all have mid to late dementia. And she brought them, and for every Monday for 1 hour, the junior high students and the residents hung out, and I provided the activities. And I have to tell you, I didn't have a lot of experience with people with dementia before that. And I thought, oh my goodness, how are these junior high kids ever going to do this? And I kind of felt sorry for them at first. And so I made sure I did lots of training, and the care center staff did lots of training about dementia with them before they even met any of the residents. And then after each session, the students took the residents back to their homes meaning wherever they lived in the facility. And then I did a 5 or 10 minute debrief with the students, because I wanted to find out what their challenges were and how to help them overcome the challenges. And I also wanted them to feel like they did something really good. I wanted them to walk away looking forward to the next week. And you know what? These students were absolutely amazing. And one of them said to me, well, just because they have dementia doesn't mean you can't have a relationship. And so it was amazing watching the students and the residents connect. There was one resident, she smiled. She didn't really say much. She couldn't really have a conversation. But the rec therapist told me that every Monday in the morning, when she realized it was Monday, she said to Stacy, the therapist, she said, the students are coming today. And she knew, and she associated Monday with the students. It was amazing. And Dana mentioned something about career choice. We had another program with high school students it was a long-term facility. They didn't all have dementia. Some of them did, but they were like the beginning stages of dementia if they were in our program at this facility. And one of the boys that was high school student, he was in that program for 2 years before he went on to university. And I've kept in touch with him. He became the president of the U of C Intergenerational Club, and I still support that club. And he is now in medical school, and because of his experience interacting with people with dementia, his career path is he's focused on research for dementia. So that's all because of his exposure and his interaction with older adults with dementia and older adults in general. So, okay, that's my story. Anybody else? Or even if you have personal experiences, maybe your own children have interacted with your grandparents, or anybody in your life where you've had this kind of interaction and you can share.
We did have one story in the chat here. So they said that they have an experience with Calgary Catholic in Chestermere, as the junior high school has a chaplain who leads the social justice group. It's called Student Voices Now, and the group advocates with the school district about what's important to students. And for these programs, the person commented that they know the students really enjoy connecting and making a difference with people. It encourages the students and those living with dementia so that they can do it, empowering for everyone.
Thanks for sharing that. We actually had a group of students from the Catholic school in Chestermere go to Lakeshore Manor for a few years and connect with the residents there. And that was independent living. Oh, what time of day on Monday did you do the program? It was after school. So the students walked over after school. I think they were there at 3:30. So it was from 3:30 to 4:30, something like that. And the programs that I have now, they're the programs that I have, which are high school, they all go after school. That it doesn't really interfere with you know, their classes. We have one program where they have electives. It's junior high. And because the teacher had had experience in other schools with our programs, and she was actually involved in this one at Harvest Hills that I was talking about. When she moved to this one community just this last September in the school there, she found an independent living retirement center within walking distance. And she's offering an option when the kids, and you probably understand it more than I do, but it's junior high. And so every term they have an option. So during that option, she takes that group of students over to that facility and they hang out for the hour. Okay, so, and Patty says she did some puzzles with her mom. I would hand mom pieces and see if she could put the items together. Once we were finished, mom didn't remember putting the puzzle together, but when I told her she did, she was beaming. We took pictures together, a great memory, even if short-lived. That's right. When you're with people living with dementia, it's all in the present. Okay, well, this has been great. It's 10 to 12 in Alberta, so we want to wrap up. Stephanie, can you put the link? I know you've done it before, but Stephanie has a link for feedback. Your feedback is really, really important, because we want to give you what you need. This is a community, it's a network, and we all want to improve intergenerational programming and relationships. So I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 minutes right now. Click on the link, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to fill out the feedback form, and then we're going to wrap up, and I'll tell you about our next event. So go.
Donna, there was also a request in the chat. Somebody would like you to come and do a presentation for their group. I think it was Patty's group.
Yeah, Patty wants to connect with me. You can get her my email address.
You know what, Donna? I'll include your email address in my follow-up email if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so Patty, watch for that.
And while folks are just giving us some feedback on the survey, I'm just going to share the screen here, and Betty will talk about this in a moment.
Oh, did I not change the picture? Okay. That's okay.
And if you're working on the survey, please give us your feedback on future ideas of sessions you'd like to see. We look at it when we're planning the upcoming content so that we can know what folks are looking for that will help their work, as well as additional resources that could help you in the group. Those are also very helpful for us to know what type of content.
Okay, I'll give you about 30 more seconds. For those of you who are finished, look at Sharon Phillips' comment in the chat about how to get, hopefully encourage caregivers and partners to allow the people that they're caring for to try new activity. Okay, so Stephanie, can I just ask you to take the slide down for a second because we're just going to have a quick recap. So what I want you to do is share with us, and it'd be nice if you just kind of shout out, or you can put it in the chat, but then I don't always remember to go there. But think about today. There's been a lot of discussion and learning today. What's the most valuable thing you're taking away today? Don't be shy, but don't all talk at once.
That we can do it.
Ah,
Group development and creation of programs.
Lindsay. Sorry, I thought Lindsay had her hand up.
There's one that came
Anybody
in.
else?
Links to share with colleagues came in, and just so many ideas came in.
Okay, you can put that slide back up, and let me just tell you, our next one is only an hour. You notice our events are an hour and a half. Our cafes are an hour. So Tuesday, February 11th, we're having an intergenerational cafe from 10:30 to 11:30 Mountain Standard Time. And the topic, diverse intergenerational mentorship circles. Are you wondering what that's all about? Come and find out on the 11th. Okay, so I'll be sending that out. Now in the follow-up email, just before I tell you about CORE, I'll be sending a follow-up email in the next couple of days. And Anita, who couldn't be here today, she sent me links to a bunch of resources. So your follow-up email will include a bunch of links. And I would say put them all into a document and save them because they'll all be really good resources, okay? And I'll include Donna's email, and I'll just include a whole bunch of stuff about what we talked about and also how you can register for the next cafe. Okay, the next slide, CORE. Stephanie spoke about CORE at the beginning, and we'd like you to become a member of CORE Alberta or CORE Canada. But once you're a member, then go and look for the groups and look for this group. This is our group, the Intergenerational Linkages Community of Practice. come and join our group, and that's where we announce our events. We've got a little discussion thread that nobody's using right now, but it would be great to get it going. So we would love to have you as a member of CORE and as a member of our actual intergenerational community of practice group.
And you can also share resources in the core group. So if you come across something really interesting that's an intergenerational resource, or you want to share something you're up to, there's opportunity for you to share content in the group there.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for coming, and we'll see you in February, but you have my email address, so if you have any questions about this or anything else, just let me know, and we'll be in touch. So I'll ask the team to stay on just so we can do a debrief. And Donna, you're welcome to stay on with us if you want.
Thank you, everyone. Hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow at the sessions tomorrow. We have one on a systems map and one on deprescribing medicine as well. So those are both on the CORE platform.
Deprescribing medicine.
Yes.
Which group is doing that?
Just CORE. Yeah, that one's not attached to a group.
Oh, it isn't. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just us.
Okay.
They're talking about how you can reduce your, you can be your own advocate basically for your medicine if you're feeling it's too much.
Okay, well, you know what? Let me just remove these people because